everyone, Caren Glasser here, and welcome to the Super Boomer Lifestyle Show, brought to you by the superboomerlifestyle.com. It's your one-stop shop for brands we know you will love. Today, we welcome author of the best-selling book, Go for No, Andrea Waltz, to the show, and today's topic is how going for no gets you to yes, one of my very, very favorite topics. Today's Super Boomer pick of the week is Go for No. Imagine that. Go for No. This is one of my very, very favorite books. And this is the book that Andrea and husband had actually wrote this book. And it's what got me into sales and what got me into realizing that anyone can be in sales if you just know what the tricks are. And so I highly, highly recommend this book. This is the book that I give to all of my team members because it's simply one of the easiest ways to get into, I'm putting up a comment, into the whole idea of going for no. Andrea, yes, is the destination. All righty. Okay, so without further ado, it's time to introduce you to my special guest. So Andrea Waltz, she's already on the screen right now. She is awesome. She is the co-founder of Courage Crafters and co-author of the best-selling book, Go for No. Yes is the destination. No is how you get there. Andrea teaches sellers in virtually every single business and industry how to think and feel differently about failing and what the whole idea about rejection is and the word no. So today, Go for No has become a very well-known methodology in the world of selling. And the book Go for No reached #1 on Amazon's selling list in 2010 and has remained in the top 50 of sales books for the last 9 years. And that is actually how I met Andrea. So welcome to the show, Andrea. How are you today?
I am doing great, Caren. How are you?
I am so awesome. It ought to be a sin. And I'm so excited that you're on the show because I totally love your book. I am a raving fan. Anyone that wants to listen to me go on and on about going for no, they know where to go because I think I'm your mouthpiece. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm almost sure that I'm your mouthpiece. You know, we always like to start the show with the question, how do you describe a super boomer? So I like to describe super boomers as what they're not. I say that a super boomer is not defined by their age. They are defined by how they show up in life. Now, I know you're not technically a super boomer, but Andrea, how do you describe a super boomer?
Well, you're right. I'm not technically a super boomer, but I'm very familiar with them because I am married to one. And so I understand the nature of the super boomer intimately. But I think a super boomer is someone who really taps into their gifts and their talents regardless of their age. And I feel like this generation, the super boomer generation of today, will define that in terms of not just retiring and walking off into the sunset, but really giving their gifts really till the end.
I so agree. And I laugh because when we decided we've done a couple of shows together before. And when we went to do this show, you actually said, I'm not really a super boomer. And I laughed because I think everyone's a super boomer. I think that especially women who just step up and just do what they're going to do. Today's topic is going for no. And one of the things that I love about this is the word no. Let's just talk about no. Why is that word so hard for people to accept?
It is tough because I think, we've all been taught and trained to avoid failure, avoid rejection. We're biologically wired to not have that happen. We don't want to get kicked out of the tribe, so to speak. Right. And so here we are, we find ourselves in society fearing the no. And that's why I think Go for No has been so powerful is we spend all of our time trying to help people to embrace no and to change their mindset, to change how they think and feel about it, which if you can do that, it's amazing what you can have happen.
It's life altering, I think. It actually becomes a game changer for people when they realize that if they just do these steps and they get comfortable with them, it will change their business. It'll change their life because I don't think it's just business. I think it changes everything that we do when we stop worrying about getting the no's. It's our relationships. It's how we approach people. It's all about the no. Now you say that you can achieve virtually anything that you want to by hearing the word no more often. Okay.
I know it sounds bizarre. So the premise of Go for No is to intentionally increase your failure rate, and by that we mean, and we use kind of the word no and rejection and failure interchangeably, because when you get a no, people that you assume, okay, I failed. It's all about intentionally increasing your failure rate, intentionally going out and hearing a no more often. And the best analogy I can use, Caren, and I mean, it's true in business and anything, but if somebody you knew needed a life-saving operation, or they needed a particular type of ingredient, right, to save their lives, even if it was something as simple as brown sugar, well, you'd knock on every door in your neighborhood. Do you have brown sugar? Do you have brown sugar?
Until you got the yes.
Until you got it, absolutely. And you'd work as hard and as fast as you needed to get that yes, and you take as many no's as it took to get your result. And that's what it's all about, is being willing to hear those no's and embracing those failures and reframing them. And I know it's tough, because most people listening to this, they're like, well, it's easier said than done. And I take no personally. And I know we can get into all of that.
Right.
But that is the basic premise, is to intentionally go out and hear no more often, knowing that when you do that, those yeses are out there.
Do you believe the adage that no doesn't really mean no, it just means not now?
I think for a lot of times, yes. No doesn't mean never. No means not yet. Oftentimes, because depending on what you're asking somebody, most of us, our knee-jerk reaction is kind of like, no, I don't want it. And then you learn a little bit more about it. And this is why marketing, I think this is why people get shown ads over and over and over again, because marketers know, okay, we can't just go out with this drug and people are going to love it. We've got to show it to them over and over and convince them until finally one day you're like, oh, I might be interested in that.
Yes. I think they say something like 12 touches or something like that. It takes that many times before somebody goes, oh yeah, I need that. And like, they didn't need it the other 11 times, right?
Right. And so because of that, I think there's unfortunately, the tendency, though, is to then give up too soon. And so people aren't willing to make those numbers work for them. And so they'll ask one time and get one no. Now, I'm not saying you have to stalk people and become a maniac and, a spoiled brat where you're like a kid asking over and over and over again. Right. Although we talk about that in the book, that children have that natural tenacity.
Right.
But certainly you've got to at least be persistent enough where you don't just take the first no, where most of us do, turn and run, and then that's the end of it.
Right. In fact, one of the things that you teach is that if you figure out that if you're a salesperson and you know that you have 5 sales calls during the week and your average of how many actual closes is, let's say, 2, then you actually teach, well, if you approach 5 people and you get 2 yeses, then what would happen if you did 10 people?
Right.
It just goes up, right? You would get maybe 4 people. So it's almost incremental. The more you go for those no's, right, the more yeses you're going to get.
Exactly. And that's a process that we call setting no goals. So we all set goals, right, for yeses or whatever. And this is that counterintuitive of what if it's funny because it's not the same thing, but it reminds me of this idea of embracing failure is just like at the gym. You could go in and you can count the ways you're successful, and you go in and you could lift 10 times a weight. What if you lifted the weight so many times that until you failed, until you literally could not lift it anymore? And that's a big part of what weightlifting is. It's called working to failure. And
yes. Right? It's an actual technique.
It's an actual technique, right?
That you work till you actually fail, which I forgot about that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's the kind of that same thing from a sales standpoint of, hey, I got 1 yes. Great. It is a numbers game.
Yeah. Joey says it's a numbers game.
Yep. I love that. And just so people know, one of my favorite quotes from a lady named Kai Deering, she says, it is a numbers game. People are not numbers, but right. And so that's not what we're suggesting, but it is kind of a numbers game. But that setting of goals and getting those no's is the way to do it.
And I think the more you do it, the more comfortable you are with hearing the no.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is, and what happens is because well-meaning early in our lives, parents and teachers, and
Right.
we kind of get reined in and we kind of get trained not to. And I think women especially, I know I talk about this on stage all the time. I was classic people pleaser. And when Richard, my husband, founding member, when my husband kind of taught go for no to me, I thought, well, no, I'm actually a really good salesperson. I'm great at customer service. And then I had to get honest and realize, oh my gosh, actually, I don't like to hear the word no. I don't. And I've had to learn over the years how not to take it personally, and how to, that all of those things that we do to avoid hearing no.
Absolutely. If you're just tuning in, we're talking with Andrea Waltz, the best-selling author of Go for No, and we're talking about going for no. One of the interesting things about your book is that it's done in story form. And I was saying earlier, before we actually got on the show, it's probably the reason that I liked it so much, because I have the attention span of a flea, and I was able to literally read it in one sitting and go, oh my gosh, I can actually do this. And I have always given this book to my team. So what made you do this as a story? Because that's a little unique.
Yeah, we wrote it as a fable. That was Richard's idea. I wasn't quite sure about that. And it actually has a little bit of a supernatural twist, which you might remember.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, kind of fun. And we did it just because we know that stories capture people emotionally. And we also are lovers, like our quote unquote hobby when we first met was writing screenplays. We actually had an agent in Hollywood at one point.
Wow.
And never sold anything, but that was our love. And so we took that and we said, let's write this as a fable. We'll integrate the lessons in there and have people care about the character and kind of see themselves in the character, so that at the end you decide, I could be that guy. I could go for no too. That was our goal.
And it has a little bit of a twist in there. So I'm sure you're curious to what we're talking about. We're not going to tell you what the twist is. We want you to go out and get the book. It is a very easy read, but something that you will get to the end and say, oh my gosh, that's how this is. I can do this. This is pretty easy. I put the book back up here. Yes is the destination. No is how you get there. I know that I'm looking at my notes here. So why do you do this? What's your why? Why did you decide to actually get into this?
Well, it kind of started from a practical standpoint. We launched our speaking and training company, teaching retailers. That was where we first started, and it was sales and customer service and management. And then we eventually, of everything that we taught, that Go for No was the thing that people gravitated to the most. So we said, wow, the market is telling us Go for No is the thing. And then it kind of transitioned more to almost a personal mission for me, because I hate the idea that people have goals and dreams and they have things that they want to do. And instead of letting someone else tell them no, they tell themselves no, which I think is absolutely criminal. It's the worst. Yeah. If you're going to fail, fail. Let the outside forces force you to fail, but don't stop yourself. And so that's a real passion for me now, is to make sure that people try, that they give themselves permission to fail, like we did when we were kids, where we always were like, hey, whatever it takes, I'm going to learn how to ride a bike, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to learn that, whatever. We didn't care. And as adults, we have to like play it safe. And it just breaks my heart.
I understand that. So what is the basic strategy of Go for No? I mean, if you want to just divulge a little bit, I don't want to give you too much of it because we really do want you to go read the book. But what is the strategy?
Yeah, so the strategy is intentionally increase your failure rates, figure out where you need to hear no more often, create a no awareness, figure out, am I hearing no? Am I hearing any no's, or am I playing it so safe? Figure out, can you hear no's in your business? Can you hear no's in your personal life? Are you able to go out to dinner? And if you get seated at the horrible table, ask for the nice, ask the hostess, hey, can we move to the nicer, cute table up at the front with the flower, in the window? So it's practicing that in your daily life as much as you can. But that it starts with that no awareness. It starts with not shutting yourself down and saying, they're just going to tell me no. They're just going to tell me no. It's in that moment saying to yourself, go for no. And that, you said it so perfectly a few minutes ago, practice it. That's what builds your courage.
Right. Joey says, she's quoting you, create a no awareness. Love it. Totally love that. And it is a practice. I mean, it really is a practice, because I think all of us, and we're talking about this from not as children, because as children, we keep asking until we get the answer we want. And I think that's part of your message in the book. But as we get older, we're afraid to say that, ask for the yes, because we're afraid that we're going to get the no. I know that this book is not just for the retail salesperson. This book works really well in the network marketing arena. It works really well in any sales arena, because again, the basic concept is, if you don't ask for the yes, well, first of all, you'll never get the no. But if you don't ask at all, you're never going to get the yes either.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you've written other books, and you did a series, a fiction series of books that was back in 2015, I think you said. What was it called? And why did you try to do that?
Well, we can't pull ourselves away from fiction. So we decided, and this is one of the nice things that Go for No really has afforded us, is we've been able to build this great brand teaching this message. And so we were able to look around and say, what else do we want to do? And so while we were still speaking, and we still are speaking on Go for No today, we took, Richard, he took the lead on this. For 3 years, we wrote a 10-book paranormal suspense series called Onyx Web, and it ties in 3 different timelines. It's extremely, I say, complex. It's one of these things that would make a great show on Netflix, because it takes different timelines. And fundamentally, Onyx Web becomes a ghost through some unfortunate circumstances, and she is very upset and very frustrated with people who waste their lives. So there's a lot of personal development messages within the series. And
it was something for you to do that was slightly different than the sales book, and it allowed you to get back into your creativity, the screenplays and things that you used to do. You also had a new book that came out a year ago called The $1 Million Book Formula, because after writing all these books, you basically realized that there's a formula as to why certain books do well and why certain books don't. So tell us a little bit about this book, because I think those of us who are listening as viewers that have thought, I'd like to maybe do a book, not because I want to be wealthy, but as a legacy piece, or just as a way to express myself as an expert. What is the $1 Million Book Formula all about?
Right. So $1 Million Book Formula came out of our work in the nonfiction world, because Go for No has been extremely successful, but we've written a few other fables which have done okay, but they didn't anywhere near the success. And we started analyzing why was that, and we ended up coming up with this 13 ingredient formula. And we said, wow, the books that have sold really well hit more of these 13 ingredients, and the ones that haven't done as well didn't. And so we created this book called The $1 Million Book Formula for people who want to write a book. And we're believers that if you enjoy writing at all, if you have a message that you want to share, I mean, a good friend of ours, Honoré Corder, has a book called You Must Write a Book.
Yes.
Right?
I love that book.
Yeah, and so we're with her. I mean, we believe people should write their book, and this is our way of teaching people what we learned, and really teaching them. There's kind of some funny stories in there, because we wrote one book that was a unmitigated disaster, complete failure. We take people through why that is. So I believe, Caren, that we can monetize our failures. We can teach people, here's what you don't want to do. And we packaged in a book, and now we're selling you this stuff because, you can learn from our mistakes.
Which is funny all by itself.
Right?
And I think that, look, in every industry out there, there are the people that you don't want to get involved with, because they're going to sell you a load of bull. And they're going to tell you that, yes, you can write a bestseller, you're going to get very, very wealthy, and you can retire. And that very few people does that happen for, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. It's.
But there are other reasons to write a book. So
Absolutely.
what might be some of those reasons for our listeners as to why they might want to go and write a book?
Sure. I mean, the biggest reason is, what is figuring out your why and your purpose. And that purpose is one of the ingredients of the formula. It's really understanding, what do I want from this book? It could be that you want your book to be a door opening business card, where if you're able to hand somebody a copy of your book and they flip through it and say, wow, this is great, I want to hire you as a coach or a consultant, or whatever, or I want to buy your product or service now because I understand more about it. And so you're really giving back and educating first. That's a huge reason. Some people, it's just like almost a bucket list item. They think it would be cool. I mean, it's cool to write a book. And if you can increase your chances of success, then writing, a book. But even if it's just a memoir, even if it's just getting your story out, I think for people to tap into their creativity, I think it makes life more fun, right? We all have that creativity and need to, I think, bring that out more.
And it's not, the process is not hard to go and write a book. I mean, you have to do it, but the process is not hard with independent books, book publishing. You can do it. You can do it. If you put your mind to it, you can actually do it. I mean, it's something that you can do on your own, or you can get the book, $1 Million Book Formula, and you can then go down the route of, I'm not sure. I now that I know what I'm supposed to do, I still don't want to do it. I need to reach out to, Andrea and Richard and see what they can do to help us, because I know that you can do that as well. What other tips can you give to people that are maybe just getting into the sales world? They've never done it before. They're convinced they can't do it. I was one of those people. I can't sell myself out of a paper bag. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. What tips can you tell people just to get started?
Yeah, great question. Well, I think one of the first things is to not make assumptions. That's one of my favorites. And one of the books that I read many years ago, probably right around the time that you and I kind of got connected, Caren, is a book called, and you probably know this book, called The 4 Agreements.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Such a good book. And one of the 4 agreements is don't make assumptions. And when I read that, and we had talked about this in our training before, for sure, because assumptions are things that we do as salespeople to protect ourselves against the no, right? Mm-hmm. And I think in this book, it really showed that we make assumptions as humans all the time to protect ourselves against whatever we perceive that could harm us. And from a sales standpoint, it really is making assumptions that this person doesn't have a need for what I want. They'll just be frustrated with me. This will happen, that will happen. And so you create this world of assumptions that becomes so daunting and overwhelming that you pretty much decide there is no one to sell to,
Exactly. And it's like Nike says, just do it.
Just do it. It's very debilitating. And so one of the things really is about breaking down those assumptions. And I said it earlier in the show, but this idea of giving yourself permission to fail is saying, because I don't know what I don't know, instead of just assuming that this person is going to say no or whatever excuse I've come up with, I'm going to let them give me the no. And I like to say that every yes you've ever gotten required the courage to face that no and to get that no, even if you got that yes, right?
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, in that moment, you still had to gather that courage. And so if you, how do you get that courage? Like, where does that come from? And I believe that comes from giving yourself the permission to fail, of saying, this doesn't have to be perfect. This doesn't have to go well. And I did a little survey with my private Facebook group. I have a private Go for No coaching group, and I asked everyone a few different questions about fear. Mm-hmm. And I assumed, from a Go for No standpoint, I assumed that the biggest fear that people in our group had would be losing the sale. And it wasn't. It was, the two biggest ones were fear of embarrassment and messing up in front of someone, right? And that kind of, with that, also fear of failure. Right. And I didn't let them choose multiples. It was kind of like you had to pick one. And so it wasn't so much fear of loss. It was that fear of just messing up in front of people. And we have that. And so that permission, it sounds so simple. It's not simple.
It's not simple. It's not. I remember when I first started to do live streaming, and I tell people because that I was so bad. I mean, I sucked at it. I was terrible. I would look at the camera. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, and I'd get off the camera and go, "Oh my God, I can't do this." And I would practice. I would do it again and again and again. And now, I mean, I do this like in my sleep. And I think it's the same thing. Is that in order to get past the fear, practice. Because everybody's going through it.
Absolutely.
You're not alone.
Absolutely. And yeah, you didn't jump on and just become a superstar overnight and know what you're doing and all of that. Yeah, it definitely takes that courage and that willingness to just kind of be bad. To be good, you have to be willing to be bad first. And you're going to have that. So the faster you embrace that and just move beyond that. And I think, I don't know how much time we have left, but to tie into that is really that kind of desire to be a perfectionist, which, right? And yeah, Maria, right? And that's me once again. Like I'm always thinking like, no, I don't have that issue. And then okay.
Yeah, I do.
Get honest. Yeah, so that desire to be perfect and to have things to go well, and right. you don't want to go through that.
No, but it makes us human when we fail too. It makes us human. I think that, at least in my case, that people think that I must not fail. I must not be failing because I'm successful. Oh my gosh, guys, I have failed my way to success. I love that expression. I have failed my way to success because every time I failed, I got back up and did it again. And until the failures, I still fail. I mean, I still fail at a lot of things all the time, but I'm still also getting some success at that as well, right?
Absolutely.
So for those of you who are wondering how you can follow Andrea on social media, you can follow her on Instagram at IG at Go4No. You can also follow her on Twitter. Her and Richard, her husband. She does have a husband and they co-wrote it, and I don't mean to leave him out. And that is also Go4No. You can also check out their site at go4no.com and sign up for their mailing list because they do this great dose of notivation. I love it. Everything has a no in there, and it's great. I mean, it comes out. I'm not sure how often it comes out, but I when it comes out, I'm always happy to see it, and it's just really great resources. So make sure you do that, and then finally, you want to go check out the Facebook group, the Facebook page rather, and that is Go4No, and you're going to have a chance. I know that Andrea will be making sure to go into the comments and respond to anything that's there. You can reach out to her, tell her that Caren sent you, just so that she knows that you saw her on the show. Andrea, any last minute thoughts you'd like to share with our audience before I put you in the green room?
I just encourage people, to practice and to do what we talked to today. It's a life philosophy.
Well, I want to thank you. I know that you're busy. You are speaking all over, not just the country, the world. You are all over the place. I thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be with us today. I'm going to drop you into the green room. Don't go away because I'm going to bring you back up afterwards to chat. Thank you again. Bye, Andrea.
Bye.
Is she amazing or what? Truly, when I say that Andrea and Richard and their book Go4No is the book that literally put me on the map for sales. When I started doing this back in 2010 in the sales world, I was the first one to say, I don't know how to sell. And I read this book, and it's short, which is even better. It's short, it's concise, it's done in a fable sort of way. It has a little bit of a twist in it, and it keeps your attention, and you can go out literally and go for no and fail your way to success. My super boomer moment for today has to do with giving yourself permission to fail. I really love that comment that Andrea said. We do need to give ourselves permission to fail because everybody does it. We're not alone. And when we give ourselves permission to fail, we have that success waiting for us on the other end. And it can be very, very powerful. I'm so delighted that all of you decided to spend the show with us today. We'd love for you to follow us on social media. If you're so inclined, you can follow us on Twitter at SuperBoomerLife. You can follow us on Facebook at the Super Boomer Lifestyle. And finally, on Instagram, you can follow us as well on Instagram at the Super Boomer Lifestyle. We've been talking with Andrea Waltz today on how no can get you to yes. I hope you go out and do that. Put some comments in there on how you went out and went for the yes. You failed your way to success. Thank you for spending time with us today. We know that you have a choice as to how to spend your time, and we are forever, ever grateful that you chose to spend it with us today. Go out and give someone an awesome day, and we'll see you next week on the next episode of the Super Boomer Lifestyle Show. Goodbye, everyone.